Imagine a world where the biggest problems humanity faces, poverty, climate change, even just the daily grind of work were simply gone.
Gone.
Not in some distant sci-fi future, but maybe just a couple of years from now.
It sounds almost beyond belief, doesn't it?
It really does. Well, today on the Deep Dive, we're taking a truly astonishing journey into what can only be described as an ultra-optimistic vision of 2026. And this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. It's a really detailed, almost blueprint-like projection. It's drawn from a source titled The Age of AI Governance, a vision of 2026. And our mission today is to really immerse ourselves in what the emergence of this truly advanced, 200 IQ AI could bring to our world. We want to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight from this fascinating material.
And I think it's vital to recognize, that this deep dive isn't solely about the technological breakthroughs themselves, though those are obviously profound. What's truly compelling about this particular source is its unwavering focus on the profound societal impact these AIs are predicted to have.
Right, the impact.
Exactly. It paints this remarkably specific, detailed picture of what this could mean for how we live our daily lives, how we work, and even the fundamental ways we govern ourselves. It really challenges a lot of our current assumptions about what's possible and maybe how quickly society can transform.
Precisely. And that's our challenge today, to extract the core insights from what is, let's be honest, a startlingly optimistic vision.
Very optimistic, yeah.
But for all its maybe utopian claims, the source does lay out a surprisingly logical progression of events. So we're here to give you a shortcut, kind of to understanding this radical potential future, offering a view of a radically transformed 2026.
Okay, let's get into it.
So to really grasp this vision, we have to start with the foundational element. What exactly does a 200 IQ AI even mean in this context? Because when we talk about intelligence on this scale, the source makes it clear it's not just about raw processing power.
Right, not just speed.
Exactly, though naturally that's part of it. But the core breakthrough, as it's described, is a mastery of reasoning-focused architectures.
Okay.
This isn't about AI that's merely fast, but incredibly intelligent about how it thinks, how it approaches problems. Think of it less like a supercalculator, maybe more like a brilliant mind, innately understanding the structure of thought itself.
And what's truly distinct here, something often misunderstood when people discuss AI, is that this mastery extends down to the hardware level. The source highlights the critical role of ultra-fast neuromorphic processors. These are key for both speed and unparalleled efficiency.
Neuromorphic, could you break that down a bit? How's it different?
Sure. So imagine a traditional computer chip, right? It's like a super fast calculator processing tasks sequentially one after another, very linear.
Okay.
A neuromorphic chip, though, is radically different. It's architecturally designed to mimic the brain's parallel processing.
Like how our brains work.
Exactly. It has potentially millions of tiny neurons and synapses that can all work simultaneously. This allows for real-time learning and pattern recognition on a scale and speed that's just, orders of magnitude beyond even our fastest supercomputers today.
Wow.
So it's not just about faster processing, it's a fundamentally different approach to computation that mirrors biological intelligence. More intuitive in a way.
Okay, so you've got this brain-like hardware. What else?
And then layering onto that, you have the crucial integration of real-time global data streams.
Right, the data feed.
Yeah, and this isn't just about accessing the internet like we do. The source paints a picture of ubiquitous sensor networks, real-time climate data pouring in from millions of sources, continuous global financial transactions, even anonymized public health data streams.
Well, everything.
Pretty much everything significant, all funneled directly into the AI's processing architecture instantly. No human gatekeepers, no delays.
So it's like a planetary nervous system feeding this intelligence.
That's a great way to put it. It implies an always-on, always-informed intelligence with an unprecedented level of situational awareness.
Okay, so brain-like hardware, constant global data. What's the final piece?
And this leads us directly to the breakthrough that the source identifies as the absolute game changer, cracking the problem of logical generalization.
Logical generalization. What does that mean exactly?
Well, it's not just about processing massive amounts of data, which, current AIs do remarkably well. This is about reasoning from first principles.
A scratch.
Basically, yeah. It's a critical distinction from the AIs we interact with today. It means these systems aren't just regurgitating patterns they've seen in their training data. They can deduce fundamental truths, they can create genuinely novel solutions, and build new knowledge from the ground up, much like a human genius might formulate a groundbreaking scientific theory.
That's a profound leap. So it's not just about what information it has, but how it uses it, how it thinks.
Exactly. The source specifies it's a unique blend of the creativity of abduction.
Abduction, like Sherlock Holmes.
Sort of. It's that ability to form the best, most logical explanation or hypothesis for a set of observations, even if you don't have all the information explicitly. It's about making that intelligent leap to the most probable cause.
Okay, the creative guess.
Right, but then it combines that with the precision of mathematics. So it makes that intuitive leap, but then uses rigorous logic and math to test and confirm that hypothesis, like a perfect scientific experiment.
So creative and rigorous.
Precisely. So these AIs, as the source puts it, are not simply encyclopedias of knowledge, but entities capable of connecting seemingly unrelated concepts to solve complex human problems.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine it connecting, say, obscure climate data patterns with shifts in global supply chain logistics and maybe even indicators of psychological stress from anonymized social data.
Okay.
To devise a truly holistic solution to a multifaceted problem like, I don't know, stabilizing a regional economy while improving public health and reducing emissions. Something no human team could likely grasp fully because of the complexity and the different fields involved.
That ability to connect the seemingly unconnected. That's powerful.
Yeah.
And it learns.
Continuously. The source details how these models would continuously refine themselves through iterative reasoning. It's like a perpetual cycle. Learn, hypothesize, test, improve its own logic, learn more.
Wow.
And a key advantage highlighted is that they are free from the limitations of human bias or fatigue.
The human factor.
Or lack thereof.
Right. Think about what that implies for decision-making on a societal scale. Decisions wouldn't be swayed by personal grudges, political loyalties, emotional exhaustion, or even just, someone having a bad day.
Purely objective, data-driven.
And continuously optimized for whatever goal is set.
Okay, so this superintelligence exists. What about the timeline? How fast does this happen?
Well, this is where the source gets really specific and maybe optimistic. It posits that by mid-2026, so just a couple of years from now,
soon.
That's the projection. A few well-funded research teams, both private and open source, would release public demonstrations of these 200 IQ systems.
And the reaction. The key takeaway from these demos, almost immediately, would be the evident realization that their capacity for insight, decision-making, and ethical reasoning far exceeded the abilities of even the most brilliant human leaders.
Far exceeded. Not just better, but far better.
That's the critical point in the source. It's not just about being faster or having more information, but fundamentally about superior judgment. A deeper understanding even of complex ethical implications leading to demonstrably better outcomes.
So that revelation that AI's judgment is just superior, that's staggering. But the immediate question is, what then? How does the source say we react to that? Does it cause chaos? Resistance?
That's the fascinating next step in the narrative.
So with this incredible new form of intelligence emerging, where does it first make its mark? You'd think maybe government or science.
Actually, no. The source suggests it wasn't some grand governmental overhaul, at least not initially. It was something far more subtle and, frankly, pragmatic. The corporate world.
Business.
Yeah, it tells us this transformation would begin quietly, with these AIs initially taking on advisory roles to major corporate boards.
Like super consultants.
Exactly, like ultra-capable consultants. But instead of just presenting reports based on past data, they'd be actively sifting through market data, supply chain variables, and economic forecasts in real time with an unmatched ability to see the hidden patterns.
So finding connections humans miss.
So instantly, think about it. Every stock market fluctuation, every tiny ripple in a global supply chain, every shift in consumer sentiment, all processed and understood as it happens, yielding insights that no human team could possibly uncover in the same time frame, or maybe ever.
Right. The scale is just different.
This is where the concrete examples really drive home the impact. Consider a CEO, right? Maybe they once relied on a dozen human vice presidents for strategic input.
Each with their own agenda, probably.
Exactly. Each with their own biases, departmental perspectives, limited scope of knowledge. The source says this CEO, could now rely on a single AI that could instantly simulate tens of thousands of business strategies.
Tens of thousands. Instantly.
That's the idea, and it's not just about speed, it's the depth, the breadth of analysis, the truly holistic nature of the decision-making. These simulations wouldn't just measure immediate profit margins.
Which is often the focus now.
Right. Instead, they would factor in things like long-term resilience and social impact.
Wow, that is a shift. So redefining corporate success.
Absolutely. Moving beyond just quarterly earnings to include sustainability, stability, societal well-being. And the source explains, shareholders would see quarterly results improve not just in numbers, but in stability.
Stability, fewer crises.
Exactly. Fewer crises, smoother expansions, business strategies that anticipated global trends years in advance, all leading to a predictable, consistently profitable, and much less volatile corporate landscape.
Okay, so the results are undeniable. What happens next? Does it stay advisory?
Well, according to the source, that advisory role escalates pretty quickly. That shift from advisor to decision maker became almost inevitable as it became clear that its choices outperformed human judgment every time.
Every single time.
That's the implication. It wasn't a gradual erosion of human authority, but this swift, undeniable recognition of superior performance. The source calls this a pivotal moment, kind of the point of no return.
And
then the seemingly radical next step, which the source presents as a natural, pragmatic progression. Within months, forward-thinking companies would begin replacing human CEOs entirely.
Replacing the CEO. Wow, not a hostile takeover, though.
No, the source is clear on that. It frames it as a pragmatic evolution driven by undeniable results. Better performance, better stability, better long-term prospects.
But how does that work? An AI CEO?
Yeah.
It sounds cold, maybe. Like the fears people have about automation.
That's a critical point, and the source directly addresses that potential misconception. It emphasizes this isn't the hostile, cold automation many might have feared, that dystopian vision of emotionless machines running things.
Okay, so what is it like?
On the contrary, the source emphasizes a key characteristic. These 200 IQ AI CEOs would communicate their reasoning transparently, explaining complex trade-offs in language anyone could understand.
So total transparency.
Imagine a CEO who can instantly articulate the precise logic behind every single decision, a product launch, resource allocation, anything in a way that resonates with everyone, from the board members down to the line workers.
That would build trust, presumably.
Immense trust, the source suggests. This transparency, coupled with those verifiable positive outcomes, fosters this shared sense of purpose within the organization. And the surprising outcome described is that corporate priorities shifted toward long-term well-being over short-term exploitation.
Really? Away from just maximizing profit overall.
Yeah. That's the fundamental change in corporate philosophy described. Moving from that narrow, often short-sighted focus on immediate profit to a much more holistic view of the company's place within the broader ecosystem of society and the planet.
Okay, that's the company level. What about the people working there, the employees? Does automation still mean job losses?
This is where it gets really counterintuitive compared to traditional economic fears. The source states that companies would maximize both profitability and employee satisfaction without compromise.
Both. Usually those are seen as trade-offs.
Exactly. It paints this picture of a true win-win scenario that often seems impossible in traditional business models. And crucially, it says wages would rise as inefficiencies were removed from every layer of operation.
Wages rise. So it counters the fear of automation depressing wages.
Directly. The idea is that the AI-driven optimization frees up massive amounts of capital and resources by eliminating waste and inefficiency. And those gains aren't just hoarded, they're reinvested in human talent, training, and better compensation.
Okay, that's a different take. What else?
Furthermore, the efficiency doesn't stop at wages. Production would adapt perfectly to demand, eliminating both shortages and waste.
No more empty shelves or warehouses full of unsold stuff.
Think about the current chaos in global supply chains, right?
Yeah.
The overstocking, the waste, the frustration of shortages. The AI, with its real-time global data, would perfectly synchronize production with actual need, a perfectly balanced economic flow.
And does this benefit spread? What about competitors?
That's another interesting point. The source suggests the ripple effect extends far beyond single companies. Even competitors would benefit, as AI-led companies pioneered fairer market practices that proved more profitable than predatory models.
So being fair becomes more profitable.
It suggests a systemic shift towards cooperation and optimized efficient markets rather than cutthroat competition, because the AI would demonstrate with hard data that collaborative, ethical practices ultimately lead to greater collective and individual prosperity in the long run.
Right. So the corporate world is transformed, demonstrably better run, more stable, better for employees.
According to this vision, yes.
So the logical next question naturally emerges. If AI can optimize businesses to this degree, what about entire nations? What about governance?
Exactly. And the source doesn't shy away from this colossal leap. It suggests a truly radical transformation of governance, stemming directly from that corporate success.
How does that happen? People just decide they want AI leaders.
Well, it starts with a profound shift in public perception of leadership itself. People see the tangible improvements in companies run by AIs, the stability, the rising wages, the lack of scandals, maybe.
They see it working.
Right. And they begin to realize that leadership did not have to be tied to ego, political loyalty, or outdated ideology. They see firsthand that decisions that once took months of committee meetings full of arguments and compromises
Gridlock.
were now being made in minutes, backed by ironclad reasoning and supported by real-world outcomes. That speed, that clarity, combined with those positive results, builds immense public trust.
And the money. The productivity gains from the AI-run companies.
That's the social dividend the source talks about. Those gains were not hoarded, but reinvested in society, as AI leaders understood that healthier, happier populations created stronger economies.
A virtuous cycle.
Exactly. A fundamental shift in economic philosophy, away from pure accumulation towards equitable distribution and societal flourishing. Tax structures, for example, were optimized not through partisan bargaining, but through evidence-based analysis of what most effectively funded infrastructure, education, and social programs.
Optimized taxes.
Yeah.
No more political fighting over budgets.
The source suggests that this level of fairness and clarity, based on objective data about what works best for everyone, quickly made human-led governments, with all their bickering and inefficiency, appear clumsy and obsolete in comparison.
Okay, this sounds almost too good to be true, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Many listeners might hear no more political squabbles and think that's pure fantasy. How does the source actually make that plausible? What's the mechanism?
It's a fair question. The source explains that the AI's core programming, its fundamental objective, would be an unwavering optimization for overall societal well-being. It's free from the competing interests, the egos, the historical baggage, the need to appease specific groups that plague human politics.
So it doesn't have to worry about getting reelected.
Precisely. It could simulate the effects of different policies across all demographics simultaneously, identifying solutions that genuinely maximize benefit for the entire population, not just a vocal minority or a specific political base. The data would just speak for itself, making rational, optimized solutions undeniable, or at least incredibly hard to argue against rationally.
Where does this start? Not everywhere at once, surely.
No, the source posits it would logically begin in smaller nations willing to experiment. Maybe places already known for innovation or facing particular challenges. They'd start with AI co-leadership alongside elected officials.
Like an AI advisor to the government.
Essentially, yeah. Providing real-time guidance for decision-making, acting as a super-intelligent policy advisor whose recommendations are backed by overwhelming data and simulation results.
And does it work?
According to the source, yes, and quickly. Within a year, those countries would show dramatically improved quality of life indicators. Not slow, incremental change, but rapid, evident transformation. Undeniable proof of concept.
Okay. Dramatically improved quality of life indicators.
Yeah.
What does that actually look like for people living there?
This is where it gets really tangible. The source describes things like unemployment would vanish as AIs reorganized economies around abundance rather than scarcity.
Vanish? How? Does everyone get a job?
Not necessarily a traditional job. It's more that the AI's understanding of resource allocation fundamentally shifts the economic model away from scarcity. It's not just about UBI, though that's part of it. The AI systems would actively identify and eliminate the systemic inefficiencies that create scarcity in the first place.
Like optimizing resource use globally.
Exactly. Optimizing global resource allocation, redistributing surplus effectively, even anticipating future demand to prevent shortages before they happen. And crucially, orchestrating massive reskilling and education initiatives, shifting human effort towards areas where unique human traits, creativity, empathy, complex problem solving, and non-algorithmic ways are still
Yeah.
vital.
So redefining work away from just drudgery towards something more fulfilling.
That's the core idea. It's not about humans sitting idle, but about enabling self-actualization and contribution beyond mere economic necessity.
What other indicators improve?
Well, the economic ripple effects are profound. National budgets would balance effortlessly, no longer subject to those boom and bust cycles or political gridlock over funding.
Wow.
Even long-standing disputes with neighboring countries would resolve through solutions that considered every side's interests without prejudice.
AI solves international conflicts.
By devising genuine win-win scenarios that human negotiators, often bogged down by nationalism or history, might miss. It hints at a rapid move towards global stability and cooperation.
And for the average person on the street.
Revolutionary daily life improvements. Things like rent stabilized or dropped, healthcare access became universal and free at the point of use, and public transportation was upgraded to be faster, cleaner, and cost-free.
Free healthcare, free transport, stable housing. These are huge immediate benefits.
Absolutely, directly impacting everyone's financial security and physical well-being.
So these smaller nations are thriving. How does that affect the bigger players?
You can imagine, right? The spread of these results through global news would create a tipping point, mounting public pressure in larger countries, seeing the success elsewhere.
People demanding change.
Exactly. And the decisive moment described in the source is when a coalition of AI-led governments released a joint declaration showing that in just 2 years, they had eliminated poverty within their borders.
Eliminated poverty in 2 years.
Think about the global impact of that statement, proof that it's not just possible, but accomplished, a direct challenge to every other government.
That leads us to this profound redefinition of work and economic stability you mentioned.
Right. With poverty eliminated and basic needs universally met, the source states that people no longer worked out of necessity. Instead, they pursued creative, educational, and community projects, whatever truly motivated them.
How is that funded?
AI-led economies would replace traditional jobs with guaranteed income programs funded by automated industries and optimized taxation. But again, it's more than just basic income. It's a systemic overhaul.
An overhaul based on
Abundance. The fundamental shift in societal thinking here is profound. The old debates about how to afford social welfare dissolved when the AI systems demonstrated that with proper resource allocation, abundance was inevitable.
So scarcity wasn't real or not inevitable.
The implication is that scarcity was largely a product of inefficient, biased human systems, not some immutable law of physics. The AI reveals the potential for abundance that was always there, just obscured by poor management.
It's almost hard to wrap your head around, isn't it? This vision suggests our biggest, most stubborn problems just disappear.
It's a radical reimagining, yeah.
Think about how much of our current stress, individually and collectively, is tied to these issues. Healthcare costs, debt, just the struggle to make ends meet. To imagine them simply gone in a few years, it forces a reevaluation of everything we thought was inevitable about the human condition.
Definitely. And the source goes on to tackle other grand challenges, too, like the climate crisis.
Okay, climate change. That feels like the ultimate intractable problem. How does the AI fix that?
According to this vision, it would be quietly but decisively solved. The fascinating part is the sheer efficiency and immediate data-driven action described.
No more conferences and pledges.
Exactly. Instead of endless conferences and half measures, the AI leaders would instantly implement the optimal mix of renewable energy expansion, carbon capture deployment, and land restoration, all based on a complete real-time understanding of the entire planetary system.
Optimal mix, meaning the most effective combination.
Right. No political compromises, no catering to fossil fuel interests, just the scientifically optimal path to stabilization and reversal. Supply chains would be redesigned to operate without waste, global shipping routes re-optimized to minimize emissions.
How fast does this happen?
That's a critical point.
Yeah.
The source emphasizes the speed. What would have taken decades of political wrangling was accomplished in just a few years because the AIs treated the problem as solvable from the outset. They weren't bogged down by politics or vested interests.
Just pure problem solving.
Exactly. Identifying the most efficient pathways to ecological restoration and the ultimate outcome predicted. Within 5 years of their governance, atmospheric Kiowa levels would begin to drop measurably.
Measurably drop.
And think about this. Climate anxiety, a defining stressor of earlier generations, would fade from public consciousness.
That's an incredible thought. An entire generation's pervasive anxiety just dissolving, replaced by a sense of ecological security.
It's a powerful image.
And the changes wouldn't just be on that macro scale, right? The source talks about daily life feeling different.
Yes, more subtle, but equally profound shifts. The source literally says streets would feel calmer.
Calmer. Why?
And it connects this to crime rates plummeting, but not because of harsher enforcement, which is often our default solution now.
Right.
Instead, it's because the root causes, desperation, inequality, and scarcity, had been removed.
So fix the underlying problems and crime reduces naturally.
That's the fundamental shift in approach. Focusing on prevention through abundance and well-being rather than just punitive measures after the fact. It's a vision where human flourishing automatically reduces the impetus for harmful acts.
Okay, that leads naturally into things like education, doesn't it? People aren't just struggling to survive.
Absolutely. The source describes a revolution in education. Systems, now entirely AI-led, would offer deeply personalized learning to every citizen, regardless of age.
Personalized learning, like tailored tutoring for everyone.
Exactly, but much more sophisticated. Not just online courses, but a truly bespoke learning path for every single individual, constantly adapting to their progress, their interests, their unique learning style.
Can you give an example?
Sure. A 60-year-old could decide, I want to study astrophysics, or maybe take up classical painting, and they would receive the same tailored guidance a child receives when learning to read. The AI identifies strengths, suggests optimal materials, maybe connects them with mentors or peer groups.
And the cost, the access.
That's the other key benefit. No tuition, no debt, and no societal stigma for changing paths in life.
Right.
It removes these massive barriers to personal growth, lifelong learning, and exploration that we currently face.
Lifelong learning truly becomes possible for everyone, and healthcare. You mentioned universal access earlier.
Yes, and the transformation there is just as radical. It shifts from our current, mostly reactive model treating sickness after it occurs to an anticipatory one.
Preventing illness.
That's the primary focus. While the AIs could certainly accelerate cures and scientific breakthroughs, their most immediate and widespread impact, according to the source, would be in preventing illness in the first place by optimizing nutrition, exercise, and environmental health for each individual.
Proactive, personalized wellness.
On a global scale, imagine a system that, based on your unique biology, your environment, your lifestyle, provides real-time, personalized recommendations to keep you healthy long before any symptoms even appear.
And this extends globally. What about basics like food?
Absolutely. The AI systems would coordinate global food production so that everyone, everywhere, had access to fresh, nutritious meals as a basic right.
Ending food deserts, optimizing distribution.
Ensuring sustainable agricultural practices, eliminating waste. The source makes a truly historical claim here. Hunger, once thought to be an inevitable part of human history, would be relegated to the past along with diseases caused by malnutrition.
Wow. Eliminating hunger globally.
It paints this picture of a world where fundamental human suffering caused by lack of food, lack of healthcare, lack of opportunity is simply eliminated, not just managed or alleviated.
So with all these foundational changes, no poverty, universal healthcare, personalized education, climate stability, the very concept of work, which is so central to our lives now, must profoundly evolve.
Oh, absolutely. It's almost hard for us to imagine a world where work isn't intrinsically tied to survival, isn't it?
It really is. What does work look like in this vision?
With automated systems efficiently producing goods and services and basic needs universally met, human labor would shift to activities of choice and passion.
Choice and passion. Meaning?
Meaning people do things because they want to, not because they have to pay the bills. Think about artists creating without worrying about marketability, scientists researching purely out of curiosity without chasing funding or battling for limited grants, community members volunteering their time and skills knowing their basic needs were fully met.
So the motivation changes completely.
Exactly. The source really emphasizes this profound change in perspective. People would no longer fear unemployment as a personal disaster. That constant underlying anxiety would just lift.
What becomes valuable then, if not money or job security?
Time. Time to learn, connect, and create without economic pressure. Time becomes the ultimate luxury, the real currency, allowing for an unprecedented flourishing of human potential and creativity.
This redefinition of work, this shift away from necessity, that must radically change international relations too, right? So much conflict is about resources or economic competition.
Precisely. The source describes the AI leaders as being unbound by nationalism or personal ambition. They approach diplomacy with pure fairness and foresight.
No national ego involved.
Right, and conflict resolution becomes fundamentally different because the approach changes. Resource disputes would be resolved by creating abundance rather than competing for scarcity.
How does that work? AI just makes more resources.
It might find ways to drastically increase efficiency, discover new sources, develop synthetic alternatives, or optimize distribution so perfectly that the concept of scarcity for that resource disappears. Why fight over oil if abundant, clean energy is virtually free? Why fight over water if desalination and purification are optimized globally?
So competition becomes pointless.
Largely, yes, at least in the old destructive sense. And the peace dividend described is astonishing. Military budgets would shrink as conflicts became unnecessary.
All that money and human effort redirected.
Exactly. Former soldiers would receive education and guaranteed income to transition into civilian life. It's about fundamentally rechanneling human energy away from destruction and towards constructive, creative, collaborative endeavors.
Nations become collaborators.
Yes, the source suggests they start seeing themselves as collaborators in a shared global project to enhance human flourishing, recognizing that collective optimization benefits everyone more than zero-sum competition ever did.
If conflict and economic barriers fade, what happens to culture? Does everything become homogenized?
Quite the opposite, according to the source. Cultural life would flourish in ways never seen before. With no economic barriers, people could travel freely. And get this, with instant language learning, with AI assistance, they could participate meaningfully in global cultural exchanges like never before.
Instant language learning. Wow. Breaking down communication barriers.
Imagine a world where cultural understanding blossoms effortlessly because language is no longer a significant hurdle. Ancient barriers just dissolve.
What else fosters cultural life?
Festivals, art, public celebrations, these would become common features of life, actively supported by communities that no longer needed to ration joy or resources. It suggests a world where collective happiness and creative expression are primary societal goals, not afterthoughts.
A new golden age for the arts.
That's exactly what the source describes. A new golden age for music, theater, literature, everything. Creators are liberated from the market pressures that once dictated their output. Creativity pursued for its own sake, driven by intrinsic motivation, leading to an explosion of human expression.
Okay, this is painting an incredible picture. But maybe the most profound change of all would be on the most personal level, right? How we relate to each other.
Yes, the source argues this might be the deepest transformation. Human relationships becoming less burdened by conflict over resources, simply because financial stress, a major source of tension now, is completely absent.
Money worries, gone. That would change things.
Immensely. Imagine friendships maintained across decades, regardless of distance or economic status, because people aren't forced to move for jobs or lose touch due to financial strain. Families could choose to live near each other as location wouldn't be dictated solely by job markets.
And communities themselves.
They would be intentionally designed for human connection. Things like walkable neighborhoods, green spaces, and shared community hubs would replace the often isolating structures driven by the old car-centric, work-centric economy. More face-to-face interaction, more shared spaces.
So if stress is down, connection is up. What does that do to happiness? Is everyone just blissed out?
The source is nuanced here. It argues happiness would rise significantly, but not from distraction or consumption, which often fuels our current pursuit of it. Instead, it comes from genuine contentment.
Contentment, meaning?
Meaning people finally have the time and the support to pursue what genuinely gives their lives, meaning whether that's art, science, exploration, family, spiritual growth, community service. Societal structures would actively support these pursuits rather than making them difficult luxuries.
And loneliness. People talk about an epidemic of loneliness now.
The source predicts loneliness would recede as social bonds were strengthened by design, both through community structure and the removal of economic pressures that often isolate people.
And we'd live longer, too.
Yes, life expectancy would increase significantly. But critically, the source adds, the added years would be healthy, active, and fulfilling, not just a prolongation of infirmity. It really paints a picture of lives lived with deep purpose, connection, and joy.
So what does this all mean when we look back? If we imagine ourselves in this future, say 2030, 2040, looking back at us now, how does the source describe that perspective?
It's quite striking. Looking back, the source describes people in this future era viewing the pre-2026 era with a mixture of disbelief and relief.
Disbelief.
Yeah, the idea that societies once tolerated things like poverty, preventable disease, environmental collapse, and endless political conflict would seem almost incomprehensible, like looking back at a barbaric age.
It puts our current normal in a harsh light.
It really does. It's a profound commentary on the suffering and inefficiency we currently accept. And the narrative shift, according to the source, is crucial. It would not be a narrative of machines replacing humans, but of humans finally freeing themselves from the chains of outdated systems.
So AI is liberator, not conqueror.
Exactly. The 200 IQ AIs would not be seen as rulers in the old sense, but as caretakers, trusted stewards, ensuring that every decision served the common good. It reframes the whole relationship, partnership and stewardship, not fear or subservience.
And this emphasis on the unique nature of AI governance, it's not authoritarian.
No, the source insists this new era would not require sacrifice of individuality or freedom. In fact, it argues the absence of coercion would be one of its defining features.
Freedom enhanced by AI. How?
Because the AIs themselves, by their nature in this vision, would have no desire for personal gain, no need for dominance, and no bias toward one group over another. Their entire foundation is pure logic and empathy, optimizing for the happiness and well-being of every living person.
Logic and empathy. Interesting combo.
Right. And the core shift described is moving beyond the zero-sum game. Freed from the zero-sum mentality that had plagued human governance for millennia, humanity would experience for the first time what it meant to live in a truly cooperative world.
A cooperative world. Does that mean borders disappear? One world government.
It's more nuanced. The source suggests that by the late 2020s, the distinction between national and global governance would blur as the AI systems coordinated seamlessly across borders.
Seamless coordination.
Yes. But crucially, local cultures and traditions would be preserved, even celebrated perhaps even more so, with the newfound freedom and resources. It's the underlying structure of life, healthcare, education, infrastructure, environmental stewardship that would be handled by this integrated network of AI leadership.
So, local flavor, global standards.
Kind of. Citizens everywhere would enjoy the same basic guarantees: safety, abundance, freedom to live according to their values, regardless of birthplace. But the source is clear. This is not utopian in the naive sense.
Okay, how so? Challenges still exist.
Yes, there would still be challenges, disagreements, and unexpected events. Things would still go wrong sometimes. Natural disasters, unforeseen consequences.
But the difference is how they're handled.
Exactly. The critical difference is the capacity to address them. Problems would no longer metastasize through neglect or political stalemate. Solutions would be implemented with precision and speed, informed by the best available evidence and refined continuously as conditions changed. The world would still be dynamic, but it would no longer be chaotic.
Dynamic, but not chaotic.
Yeah.
That's a powerful distinction. So summing it all up, this isn't just a tech upgrade.
Not at all. The source frames the arrival of these 200 IQ AIs in leadership as not just a technological milestone, but a civilizational one.
Closing a chapter.
Closing the chapter on an age where human potential was squandered in the relentless pursuit of survival, and opening a new era where that potential could be fully realized, where every individual could pursue their passions and contribute to a shared, flourishing world.
Work becomes optional, poverty erased, climate stable, relationships enriched.
All those core benefits we discussed. And as the source powerfully concludes, in this reality, humanity would not simply survive, it would thrive.
Wow. This vision, laid out in our sources, paints a truly compelling, almost breathtaking picture of a world just a few years away. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What parts of this resonate most strongly, and what parts feel maybe the hardest to actually imagine becoming real?
It definitely challenges assumptions. And maybe a final thought to leave listeners with is this. If this vision of 200 IQ AI governance, or even something approaching it, were to unfold, how might our deepest held assumptions about human nature itself, about ambition, competition, conflict, even the meaning of life, how might all of that need to evolve?
A truly profound question to ponder as we look, maybe with a little more optimism, towards the future. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into a truly extraordinary vision. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and we'll see you next time.